how billion-dollar brands lose control. We're looking at what happens when a creator's name gets completely detached from the creator himself. A cool $1.35 billion. That's a B, by the way. This massive figure was the peak valuation of the Jimmy Choo brand back in 2017 when it was acquired by Michael Kors, which later renamed itself Capri Holdings. By this point, the brand was pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. It stood as a monumental corporate asset, right alongside other fashion titans like Versace. But amidst all these billion-dollar boardroom deals, a really glaring puzzle emerges. And that leads us to the central mystery of our explainer today. Where is the founder? Seriously, the man whose actual birth name is stamped on every single one of those incredibly expensive shoe boxes is nowhere to be found in the corporate boardroom. He doesn't own the company. He doesn't control the brand. So how exactly does a founder lose control of a $1.35 billion empire that literally bears his own name? Let's figure it out. Section 1, a masterclass in craft. The origins in Penang. To really understand this billion-dollar buyout, we have to rewind to Choo's incredibly humble beginnings. We're talking the 1950s in Georgetown, Penang, which is a beautifully layered, culturally rich island city in Malaysia. His father, Choo Kee, was a local cobbler who ran his trade right out of the front room of their modest family shophouse. He used to tell his son, sit and watch, sit and watch. You see, in their household, observing this craft wasn't some romantic weekend hobby. It was an absolute economic necessity for their survival. Education was valued for sure, but money was tight, and Jimmy actually had to drop out of primary school. Instead, his real education happened right there at the edge of his father's workbench. Now, this wasn't your modern, comfortable classroom. This was an ancient, profoundly effective educational philosophy all about building pure muscle memory. Jimmy sat and observed in silence for months. He learned to assess the weight and the softness of leather literally just by running it through his fingers. He had to understand the exact placing, spacing, and tension of stitches long before he was ever allowed to pick up a needle. And the result of all that discipline? By age 11, he handcrafted his very first complete pair of leather slippers just to fit his mother's feet. 11 years old, the craft was quite literally in his hands. Section 2, the bespoke breakthrough. From East London to Kensington Palace. Fast forward to the early 1980s. Jimmy arrives in London. He's a young immigrant, his English is limited, and his savings are razor thin. But he is absolutely determined to elevate his craft to the highest possible level. So in 1980, he enrolls at the prestigious Cordwainers Technical College. This is huge because it gives him crucial access to industrial machinery. He graduates in '83, but he isn't looking for a safe, cushy salary. He's looking for space to create. So in 1986, he sets up a one-man bespoke workshop in a cold, disused Victorian hospital in Hackney, East London. It was completely unscalable. Every single pair was custom fitted by hand. But the quality, undeniable. It was so good that by 1988, this quiet craftsman working out of an abandoned hospital landed a massive 8-page spread in British Vogue. So, who buys these painstaking custom shoes? Well, by the early 1990s, Choo earned the ultimate bespoke client, Princess Diana, literally the most photographed woman on the planet. She sought him out because his shoes understood the weight of public life. They were extraordinary yet but not overly theatrical. Plus, they were a perfect fit for standing hours on end in front of the cameras. But beyond the actual product, she deeply valued the human connection. She would actually insist on carrying the shoemaker's bags herself when he visited Kensington Palace. Think about that. It was a genuine partnership built on absolute mutual respect and mastery. Section 3, the price of scaling, the Faustian bargain. Okay, here's where everything shifts. In 1996, a 27-year-old British Vogue accessories editor named Tamara Mellon walks into that cramped Hackney hospital workshop. She immediately recognizes the immense value in Choo's work. But she also sees the glaring commercial limits of a one-man bespoke operation. Suddenly, two totally different business models are about to go to war. On one side, you have Choo's bespoke craft, custom-fitted, slow, personal, and fundamentally unscalable. On the exact opposite side, you have Mellon's vision for a global brand, utilizing Italian factories for scale, aimed at the accessible luxury market, and entirely driven by investor capital. The vehicle for Mellon's global vision was ready to wear. In simple terms, this means high-quality, factory-made fashion sold in standardized sizes, which completely bypasses Jimmy's time-consuming, personal fitting process. Backed by her father's capital, they launched this model. And guess what? It worked like magic. The brand accelerated globally at lightning speed. But, and this is a huge but, it required Jimmy Choo to step out of his familiar workshop and into a boardroom, a world of investor presentations, profit margins, and retail strategy that he simply was not built for. Section 4. Losing the name. The boardroom versus the workbench. The clash between a solitary craftsman and a rapidly expanding corporate machine was inevitable. It finally reached a breaking point in 2001. The outcome? $30 million. That is the exact payout Jimmy Choo received when he sold his 50% stake in the company. Now, by any ordinary measure, $30 million is a totally life-changing sum of money, especially for an immigrant who arrived with almost nothing. But the profound tragedy here is what he was actually selling. He wasn't just handing over shares. He was literally selling the name his parents gave him. His very identity as a craftsman became a commercial asset owned by other people. And once your name belongs to the market, it just becomes a financial asset, a poker chip. Just look at this dizzying whirlwind of a timeline, from Phoenix Equity Partners in 2001, to Lion Capital in 2004, Towerbrook in 2007, Labelux for £500 million in 2011, and finally to Michael Kors for $1.35 billion in 2017. Jimmy Choo, the actual human being, became a traded instrument, bouncing among private equity conglomerates, all while he sat completely on the sidelines. This, right here, is exactly how a $1.35 billion brand loses control of its founder's original vision. Section 5. The untouchable legacy. True mastery cannot be bought. So you have to ask yourself, what actually fueled the brand's unstoppable ascent in the cultural imagination long after Jimmy left? Because here's the secret. True mastery cannot be bought. The brand's true foundation wasn't the private equity money or the shiny Italian factories. That $1.35 billion valuation was built entirely on an authentic, unmanufacturable story. A boy from Penang, a Victorian hospital in East London, Princess Diana's actual feet. When the brand became famous in Hollywood and on shows like Sex and the City, it arrived with this immense gravity attached to it. This was realness, the kind of realness that absolutely no marketing budget could ever conjure up out of thin air. Flat pumps and V-cut Italian silk filet waiting to be collected. That was Princess Diana's final order with Jimmy Choo, placed in the summer of 1997. He finished them, but as we all know, she tragically passed away in Paris that August. She never collected them. Jimmy Choo has kept those exact shoes for nearly 30 years. It's a deeply emotional anchor that symbolizes the bespoke, irreplaceable human element of his life's work. A private equity firm can buy a trademark, sure, but it can never, ever replicate this level of personal devotion and shared history. So what did Jimmy Choo actually do after he lost his name? Did he just fade away into a bitter, wealthy retirement? No way. He returned right back to his roots. He launched a personal, bespoke couture line, making shoes by hand exactly the way his father taught him. In 2002, the British state formally recognized his craft, with Queen Elizabeth II awarding him an OBE. He was also honored with the prestigious title of Datuk in Malaysia. And brilliantly, he turned his focus to teaching. He opened the JCA London Fashion Academy in 2021 and became an ambassador at the very college that formed him decades ago. His philosophy on life and business became incredibly clear. He said, "If you've learned a craft from your parents and mentors, it would be a waste not to pass it on." He deeply understood that knowledge only has true value if it moves forward. His dedication to passing down true mastery has completely outlasted any of his corporate involvement. He didn't keep the company name, but he kept the tools, and he just kept building. So I'll leave you with this. What does it really mean when the thing you built becomes bigger than you are? The Jimmy Choo brand will likely continue to be traded, flipped, and squeezed for profit by billionaires for decades. But the legacy of the man himself proves something entirely different. It shows us that true mastery, built slowly, quietly, and honestly, is a deeply human form of wealth. And that is a wealth that no financial market can ever fully price, and no corporate acquisition can ever take away.